A warm welcome on my behalf to the esteemed panel of speakers as well as participants across the globe watching on this platform as well as YouTube and Facebook, and creating joy in twilight years. This is a topic and we are about to discuss is really important. Why? Because India has the second largest population of elderly citizens in the world, currently estimated to be 137 million. So they constitute the fastest growing segment of the population. And, it is expected to reach 19% in 2050. So that's quite a sum. And all of us cannot deny the fact that there are several issues faced by elders. There is a growing need to address these issues. They are just not health issues, but they can be social issues and psychological issues as well. So the panel of speakers here today will be throwing light on several solutions to address this urgent need, especially in India, to take care of our citizens who are in their twilight age. So welcome participants, and I will open the session with my first question to Mr. Manick Rajendran, founder and CEO iMMi Life Healthcare. Manick lives in the USA and is a health tech serial entrepreneur. And he has done some pioneering work, I hear, in the field of medicine, especially during the COVID times. So my question to you, Manick, how can society take care of elders across the spectrum of, there are three categories of elders: the healthy elders, the one who requires some kind of medical and physical and social support, the second category, and the third category, the elders who are bedridden, they are bedbound. So Mr. Manick, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Meghalai. I hope I'm audible enough.
Yes, you are.
So last night, my son called me excitedly and said, "Dad, guess what I found?" "What, Kanna?" I asked. He said, "Dad, I have Grandpa's letter to me when I had gone away to college." And he starts off by saying that the first word to come out of my mouth was Tata, Tata for grandfather. I could hear the lump in his throat as he read the entire letter out. And that's what grandparents do to their kids. They create emotion. They create a balance in their lives. Yes, some elders are grandparents. Some are parents, or just plain elderly. And as you mentioned, Meghalai, they could be perfectly healthy or have some health compromises, or in worst case, be bedridden. And in all three states of health, a common theme is one of vulnerability, predominantly. That's what they feel. And this has been made acute during this time of the pandemic in the last year and a half. The early days seemed to target the elders. In fact, we lost a sizable portion across the world, and the healthcare community actually learned from those fragile endings. In other times prior to that, and now a bit of a post-COVID situation, the elderly suffered complex problems that constrain the normal functioning of the body. The body ages. So even though this is challenging, solutions exist. And the quality of life of older people can significantly improve with simple measures that address their health issues. In this day and age, fortunately, we have access to advanced thought processes and technology. So I'm just going to lay out a few pointers to consider and probably adapt and adopt in our own ways. So we can start off by providing care at home if possible. I know some of our elders are probably in elderly or adult communities, which is fine. A lot of times, especially in the Indian context, if you can provide for care at home, it makes a huge difference. It takes away the uncertainty of care, even if it is a little bit deficient. We might not be able to take care of them fully when they're at home with us, but they'll be okay with that. They'll take care of themselves too. Next, provide care coordination among all those providing care. We have different kinds of people who would be taking care of the elderly. And as we age, the ability to have a comprehensive perspective diminishes. And this needs to be compensated for. Third, encourage them to make their own decision. That process of co-creating facilitates, above all, compliance. They will be compliant. Simple prescription compliance is a huge problem. But if you encourage them to make their own decisions, all of that will come into play. At the same time, also enable social inclusion, allow them to be active participants in family events, in contributing to decisions made and so on, weddings, buying a scooter, buying a cell phone for a grandchild. Let them all be part of that decision making. Fifth, since they might be slow in recognizing change around them, be on top of technology for them. For example, just like the financial industry has fintech and the wealth creation people have wealth tech, the latest is age tech. Yes, there's something called age tech. Find out what technology can be made simple for them. They will pick it up. These days, elders are the ones who have adapted to the WhatsApp platform so very readily. And it all probably started with a grandchild starting a family group, perhaps. But they take to it very easily. So even though the healthcare insurance industry is still at its infancy in India, having coverage gives peace of mind to them. Make sure that they can have it. Catastrophic situations can drown them easily. What we think is normal might actually be a huge catastrophic situation for them. And in all of this effort, make sure you as a caregiver rejuvenate yourself so that you can be available for your loved elder. It's a daunting task to take care of elders in so many ways. Take care of yourself. 8, learn and practice mindful communication. I know one of our panelists is an expert in mindfulness, and I'm hoping that she will be able to expand on this point, but it's the right way to approach communication. There's so many innovations around. Stay abreast of them and look for ways to use them to the mutual advantage of the elders you take care of. And 10, create a safe environment for them wherever they are that encourages their independence and autonomy, mitigates risk of injury or harm, and feels like a personalized home environment, even if it's a small place. Let them feel independent and autonomous. Bottom line, when we were growing up as kids, we were their future, a future they might not get to visit. Today is that future, and it is up to us to take care of those who have come with us this far in the best way possible. After all, a society is measured by how it cares for its elderly. Thank you for the thoughtful question, Meghalai. Thank you.
Thank you, Manick. I wanted to ask you, you were doing some pioneering work for during the time of COVID. So a little bit about that, because when I was speaking to Dr. Thanga, he was mentioning that you're doing a whole lot of things. So it would be nice for everybody to listen to what all you were doing.
Sure. Wave 1 came and went, and none of us could do much about it. We had our hospitals and doctors not able to go. So we were left in the lurch. So by the time the second wave had come, we were actually off our guards. The government probably thought that we had conquered COVID. But around January, February, we saw initial signs of the second wave. And by the time second wave hit us hard, April, May, June, we were panicking all over the place. We were panicking because we did not have enough resources all around. And in fact, the most important resource was active counseling. So we would get people who would call in and say, my grandfather needs an ICU bed. And then we'll whittle it down, we'll talk to them. And when we talked to them, we were able to bring down their panic level and anxiety level. And how we did that was we had a bank of nurses. So our first point of contact after the initial screening would be to talk to the nurse. And it could be a caregiver who's talking. It could be the person herself panicking too. But those few minutes that we were talking, the panic level came down, and our nurses did what we call a triage, a medical triage, a complete history taking. Mind you, they are in a panic situation. They're thinking that a father is going to die, a grandfather is going to die. We took the time to calm them down, get all that information. Once we had that information, we went offline. We said, we'll come back in a few minutes. We went to a doctor, one of the panel doctors, and we told them the entire history. And the doctor now, who is in the middle of fighting other cases, now has a complete record of everything he needs to know about the patient. So there was no documentation that he needed to write, no app that he needed to get into. He was just on the phone. So we facilitated the doctor to get exactly what he needed to do. And then we connected the patient on a video call. So between the two of them, they were able to talk, and the doctor was able to say don't worry, ma'am, we will take care of you at home. You do not have to go to the hospital. And sure enough, what we did was we used a WhatsApp platform where we had the patient and her caregivers, 3 of her nurses and an admin in the same WhatsApp group. And we encouraged the patient to ask us any number of questions. So on an average, our patients stayed with us for 8.24 days. And during that time, about 40 to 50 questions they would ask, on an average 5 per day. And our nurses would escalate only the ones that needed to go to the doctors 12 to 15 times. And the doctors got to talk to the patients only thrice. So we were able to downskill everything from the doctor, up prioritize the patient, and there was active engagement. And this active engagement is what got the elderly patients to a calm level, and we were able to save several hundreds.
That is really wonderful, because I know that patients have so many questions and they want the doctor to answer each one of them. And if the groundwork is being done by the support team and the doctor can just diagnose and treat, that will be good, especially in a country like India where we are always hard pressed for time, right? So that's a wonderful initiative what you have done. That is so good to hear. I loved your 10 points also. And the important point which I really like is, giving the decision making to elders. Sometimes many families, they do not do that. So they don't feel included. That's also a wonderful point. Each and every point was wonderful. And you were talking about mindfulness. So I think we can move to Seetha Sagaran, who is the expert in that. My next question. Thank you, Manick. We'll come back to you later on when the question session starts. Seetha, she's a motivational speaker and trainer from UAE. And Seetha is a licensed practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming. Among her very, very many achievements, she's a wonderful speaker. Seetha, caring for an aging loved one will inevitably come with challenges along the way. Okay. In our conversation also, we spoke about that earlier. We were talking about mindfulness. What is mindfulness, and how can practicing mindfulness help the elders in taking care of the elders? Over to you, Seetha.
Thank you very much, Meghalaya, for the welcome and the kind introduction. I'd like to first of all convey my appreciation and thanks to WEF for having invited me and giving me the privilege to be with you all and speak to you all today. Thank you. When we talk about mindfulness, it is basically a quality or a state of being conscious or aware of something. We can also define it as an awareness on the present moment, while calmly acknowledging and accepting our feelings, thoughts, and sensations, which is happening in that process. So I think it's basically best defined as a state of mind. And when we talk about how mindfulness can help in communication, before we talk about how mindfulness can help us communicate with the elderly better, I'd like to mention here that we are more conscious of the words we use. For example, keeping the conversational tone as respectful, even when there is a disagreement being discussed. So I think that is sometimes not always given priority when there is a disagreement, because many a time the emotions tend to come in the forefront, and we may or may not be very attentive to the choice of language we make. The second one is it enables us to rehearse our words. Yes, because when we are about to say something, even if we are not very comfortable about it, we might still think about what is the right word that I can use so as to not create any offense, at the same time enable me to communicate as clearly as possible. Insightful understanding also is promoted through mindfulness, because as we all know, everyone has their own different styles of communication. And for some people, it could come across as something very abrupt. I remember years ago when I was speaking to an elderly person many years ago, And my initial meeting with the gentleman came to me as a bit of a surprise, because the manner I have been seeing how many elderly speak was very different if I compare it to that person. But I realized over a period of time that that was just the loving manner that person communicates. So I think it enables us to be more mindful or more aware of those we are speaking to and understand their communication style as well. Now, if we want to incorporate how mindfulness can be incorporated in our relationship with the elderly, the first thing would be listen. I think we probably don't need to reach the elderly age to understand that we all can benefit better through listening. As a mother of 2 children, both of them who are adults today, I am often told that I need to listen better. I'm an extremely poor listener. And I do admit to all my panelists today here, yes, I sometimes do tend to get a little carried away in my desire to communicate and speak. So listening comes first. The second one is the non-verbal communication. Now, when we talk of non-verbal communication, there is one incident that comes to my mind. That was when my father was critically ill. It happened during the 2018 Kerala floods. I'm sure many of you would have recalled that tragedy. So he was extremely ill and he was suffering from 4th stage cancer. So during the initial times he had to visit the hospital, I had also, none of us was really anticipating how quickly he would deteriorate. So the first time I was scheduled to travel from India to Dubai, he had already told me, don't even think of canceling your ticket or postponing your trip. You just go ahead, we can manage. The next time when he had to be hospitalized, and when he came back home, I told him, no, I will be postponing my next trip as well. And he said, why do you wish to? Don't even think of it. And I was very, very appreciative of the courage and the vibrancy he had when he assured me. The third time he fell sick and he returned from the hospital, I told him quietly, you know what, I'm not traveling anytime now. And the third time when I spoke to him, he didn't say a word. He merely nodded and he looked away. And I think that actually hurt me a lot more, because not the fact that he wasn't telling me to go forward and make the trip, but I could see from his non-verbal communication that he was probably relieved that I'm there, because probably by then he could see and sense that his health was faltering and he was deteriorating. So I think non-verbal communication can definitely help us a lot, because if he had chosen to be quiet and I told him that I'm traveling, knowing my father, he would have just kept quiet. And if I had probably overlooked the non-verbal communication he was giving, it would have been very sad, especially, I think, sad for the fact that he was suffering and he was not able to tell me, because he was so concerned about my comfort that he wouldn't want me to change my plans. Mm-hmm. And the third one is about verbal communication, of course. And when we talk of verbal communication, there are times when you may find, or we may find, that the elderly, they might have their own ways of speaking, either because of their discomfort, or it could be because of lapses in memory, or it could be because they are not as mobile as they were used to years before. But I think, once again, our choice or the manner we choose to respond to their communication would enable them to feel a lot more secure and comforted. So even sometimes when they might respond in anger, if we just go to them and just hug them a little bit and say, what happened? For all you know, they might just tell you what it is, because they were not expecting that kind of kindness from us. So I think every step of the way, as we choose to respond to them, the first step would be thinking, what are they going through? Of course, we may not have any idea the extent of what they are going through because of their age and the difficulties they are undergoing. But through sensitivity, through a little more of compassion, we would be able to understand them a lot more. So the key strategies to ensure effective communication through mindfulness is we need to remember that words have immense power. So for example, if we are speaking to someone and that person disagrees with us, and if we choose to respond by saying, why do you speak this way? Or we choose to respond to ask them by asking them, can you please explain? I think the immediate reaction would be very, very different. And the second one is being present while communicating. How aware are we of the now when we are speaking? The third thing is incorporating tact and sensitivity in difficult conversations.
Yeah.
How tactful are we? And how much are we able to incorporate sensitivity? The fourth one is the comprehension of communication style, which I mentioned earlier, which would also enable us to understand people better. And I would also like to mention here before I conclude for any Q&A, any questions that might be coming forward, is that please, we need to remember that even though our communication style may be seen by some as not exactly as we would like to be seen, it takes time. So sometimes giving people time to understand you is also helpful than completely changing our style of communication because of our inability, temporary inability to communicate with them. I think with that, I would like to hand it back to Meghalai, and I hope I have been able to throw some light regarding mindfulness and communication.
It was very clear, sound advice, Seetha. Like communication is, responding to people in a thoughtful manner, tactful manner also. So you listed out a lot of points like, verbal communication, non-verbal communication, and you gave a personal story also about your father and how you and he responded. It was all wonderful advice. And probably people also, this can, lots of words which we use can lead to several misunderstandings, strained relationships as well, which you cannot mend because they are in that very sensitive stage of life, right? So that hurts them deeply. So mindfulness is so important. I wish we could have some training sessions for caregivers or the families. I don't know. We can talk about that a little later. But now I think it is time to go to Dr. Thanga Prabhu. Thanks, Seetha. I'll come back to you when the questions come.
Sure.
So the ratio of available healthcare assistance for every senior citizen is dwindling. So one way to curtail this unhealthy gap between the seniors and caregivers is technology. And we have a technology expert here. He's a medical informatics expert, Dr. Thanga Prabhu from Apollo Hospital, Chennai. And he's so passionate about it. I've had 2-3 conversations, and I also had the privilege of hosting him in a webinar earlier, a few months ago. And we spoke about several elderly care solutions. He touched upon several facets of elderly care. But today, my question to you, Dr. Thanga, is how can technology aid in senior care management? So over to you, Dr. Thanga. You have to unmute, yeah.
Thank you very much, Meghalai. That was very kind of you. Vanakkam from Thanga, Chennai. So this is a very personal experience. I think Manick shared and Seetha shared. This is a problem which we are choosing to ignore. So as we were going through the program, I was posting on LinkedIn because I want more people to get into this awareness. Though I am a medical doctor, I'm an intensivist by training, an emergency care physician, and I've been in practice for a very long time. You know what? It hits you hard when somebody close to you, somebody dear to you, either your child, your wife, or in this case, my parents. Suddenly, one day my dad refused to get up. We didn't understand. Yeah, And then we had to take him to the hospital and get all the tests done. And they did a CT scan and they said he has Parkinson's. And we are seeing lots of these people coming in with Parkinson's. So Parkinson's, for those of you who don't know, is a problem in the brain where a particular part of the brain stops producing a certain chemical. And because of that, they develop, either they become very flaccid or they become very rigid. So the quality of life, overnight just drops. Here is a man who is famous for a lot of social work, a career where he went to phenomenal heights. There's hardly any country which he has not visited. And overnight he can't even go to the loo on his own. So morally, that hits a person very hard. So hard that they feel that, this is not a life worth living. So that is where I was very abruptly and rudely introduced to this world of elder care. So by the way, I practiced in Abu Dhabi as a ER physician. I trained in informatics from Swansea, Wales, lived in England for 2.5 years in UK, and worked in G Healthcare for 10 years in the research center in Bangalore. So all my life, I have lived in the emergency and ICU environment. So I know that environment very well. And we also have started a company in Bangalore, Med, which is now based out of California. And we specialize in automating the data collection in the acute care environment, which is the operation theaters, ICU, and the emergency department, and run analytics on it and try to predict which of the patients is going to develop a problem, which further, So we are basically trying to use big data analytics to try and see how we could catch these patients early and improve their mortality statistics and the morbidity statistics. Basically, we are trying to understand what are the big problems that are there in the intensive care environment, and how can technology help us in catching it early. So this is what we were doing. Now here was a thought, okay, and both my parents are actually having Parkinson's now, and for your information, they are the only living siblings amongst the many siblings they had. Average life expectancy in my family is, I think it's about 50 years. So I already have lived 4 years as a bonus. I don't know how long we go. My parents have been lucky that my dad is 82 and my 70. I'm making it personal because we don't want this to be a lecture. We want to identify. I'm sure everybody who is listening in on so many social media and all these forums, you don't have to look at Singapore and Japan. Just look around in your family. I'm sure either your own parents, in-laws, or somebody close to you is, right there, living 60 plus and they have lots of problems. So it is up to us to talk about it. And when Meghalai said that, we are hosting a conference, like she said, we did an earlier session where we just touched on the subject a little bit. But I would say in the last 2 years, I've become something like an expert in this area. I was being selfish. So I said, how can I bring this technology to my parents? They live in Salem, in the foothills of Aircard, which is, not a very busy or a modern place. So healthcare access is a big problem there. And I've discovered that there are so many things which are required and it just doesn't exist. For example, if you have some illness and you want to take them to a hospital, the hospital floors, don't have anti-skid flooring. The hospital toilets don't have the rails on the side. The hospital lighting is inadequate for an elder person. And what Seetha just spoke, people don't care, right? I mean, you should remember 60 plus, their vision is down, their hearing is down, their ability to speak is down. People just get angry at them. They say, Amma, itna dada solra ni keka matengre. Do you know that she can't hear you? So these are the awareness sessions that I said, Meghalai, we need to create so that, we have a little compassion and we understand their problem. And remember, these were people who were at very, very high positions. So it's just not acceptable to them that, you know, they can't hear, they can't smell. I mean, all the senses go down. So that is where compassion is important, and technology has a role to play. But let's be human first. And when it comes to technology, what we have discovered is there are 5 big killers in the eyes. Sepsis, which is a severe form of infection, is the biggest killer. Almost 60% of the patients end up in this, and then it goes into multi-organ failure, and then, you know, like we say, they come in horizontally and they, you know, go out. I mean, they come in vertically and go out horizontally. This is how, you know, we describe. So sepsis, ARDS, acute respiratory distress syndrome, which is basically buildup of fluids in the lungs. Heart failure, which is a condition where the heart, you know, finally gives up, are some of the conditions which are terminal events in the ICU. And technology is available today for us to catch these things before things go to that level. So the thing is, all these things just don't happen, you know, suddenly. It builds up over a period of time. And as a physician, if I can give the treating doctor a 12-hour notice, he can actually, you know, redo the drugs, redo the fluids, and, you know, change the management of the patient in such a way that you don't even get into that situation where you develop these conditions. And all this is very new work. We work with the Duke University in the US, and they are pioneers. In the last 2.5 to 3 years, we have done a lot of work. And I can share that we are finding some excellent results. Our algorithms, AI algorithms are very accurate. They are more than 90-95% accurate. So we are actually ruling out all that false positives and the false negatives. So our accuracy is much better. So the clinicians are also happy to use these tools in the environment. So what happens is, we know that we are discovering all this in the ICU. But sepsis actually starts in the wards and in the emergency. And we went further, and then we found that it actually starts in the community. So up to now, we didn't have a way to catch all these things in the community. Today, we have technology, and I'm privy to so many of those, thanks to my earlier role in St. John's Medical College, where FDA certified products are available, very much available in Bangalore itself, from not one but many companies. And it's like a small wearable. It's like a slightly large size band-aid, which you stick below your left collarbone, and that will actually capture temperature, pulse, temperature, heart rate, SpO2, and you know, your ECG, and through Wi-Fi can transmit all this. So this is a very, very rich source of information for us to actually monitor a patient and you know, continuously track them. So with that, I will pause. But what I want to conclude is, this is not something, you know, out of the world we are talking, or we are not talking about going to Moon or Mars. Guys, come on, this is a problem we are dealing with right now. And let's be a little selfish. You know, my friends, my classmates make fun of me. They say, Thanga, you better get this right. In another 10 years, we are going to require all these services.
Thank you, doctor. So you were talking about wearables for identification of sepsis. I have a personal story to share about the sepsis. For me, I wasn't aware of this word at all. But when my mother-in-law fell ill, she was admitted in the hospital, and she was being treated for tuberculosis. So what happened? Suddenly she went, her BP dropped, and she had rigor. Doctor said that she has gone into septicemia shock. Okay, and she was really ill. We were in the General Hospital, Chennai. We were wheeled into the ICU, and but they did some wonderful things, and she recovered. She lived for 17 years after that.
Great.
That was way back in the 2000, early 2000 or mid 2000, I should say. But it's wonderful that wearables are available to identify even before the event happens. For us, it was all new. We didn't even know what was happening to her. So awareness. So if this wearable is available in India, and how much, doctor? I mean, is it available for the common man or for the institution?
5,000.
5,000. Okay.
It's a disposable. It can be worn for a week. It's waterproof.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
very much available.
Very much available. Wonderful to hear that. So there is so much of opportunity here in this med tech field. So the business owners who are watching, so there is a great opportunity for you all because the growing elderly population need all these things, right? And imagine identifying something, some event, which even before it happens, you can save lives. You can save several lives. So thank you, doctor. And Anupama. Heading into the twilight years of your life offers the invaluable opportunity to reflect upon a life well lived. I'm going to, move from illness to joy, full of, they think about laughter, joy, their hard work. Like somebody said, they were in high positions, thinking about their triumphs and their achievements in life. So that is the kind of, retired life everybody dreams about, right? Okay. Hanging their boots so that they can relax in their easy chair and think about all their nice things which have happened in life. But does it really happen? Practical challenges are there. Practical challenges of aging. People can still live well. There are lots of people out there who are fending for themselves alone because their children are abroad. So Anupama Sharma here, she's a director of Prayojana Golden Years. I happened to go through your website, wonderful website, Anupama, and she has the answers to several of the burning issues which many elders are facing. In fact, recently I touched base with her because my friend, she lives abroad and she has elderly parents here. There are no siblings. She's only child and she lives there. And who is to take care of them? Who is to take care and of all the day-to-day activities? Then I was telling about Anupama. And Anupama, let us hear it from you. How does Prayojana help in bringing joy to the elders? Because that is all the topic about, bringing joy to the twilight years, which you are doing through your company. Go ahead.
Thank you, Meghalaya. Yes, that is what we do. We support senior citizens who live away from their children, away from younger members of the family, live by themselves. We support them to live in their own homes. Like Dr. Manick mentioned, staying in your own home, especially as you're used to things, staying in your own home seems to be their preferred option. So there are lots of these senior communities, but we thought that let's give this, turn it around on its head and bring the services to them so that as you are growing older, you are limited by various things. You cannot do things that you used to enjoy earlier, maybe the health constraint or the lack of company. If we could bring these services to them in their own homes, that might, at least they are in their own comfort zone, familiar surroundings, neighbors, social fabric is similar. So as historically in India, we have been having family, be with senior citizens, but that is changing. And the last 2 years especially has been quite rough on everyone for sure, but especially on senior citizens, they're quite lonely, and adapting to new technologies, not stepping out has rattled many of them. Now that we are slowly coming out of things, for us, it's like exciting. Okay, now we can step out. But for many senior citizens, they are really scared. That was very surprising. Like, people who have been very positive, confident people, after this 1.5, 2 years stay at home, to step out and go get something, they're like, oh, Poname, I have to go. Who's going to come with them? So what we do is we have like a care buddy system. We go with them, we accompany them for various things. And the whole idea of bringing joy at any stage in life, it's important. It makes you, impacts your health, physical, mental, very positively. So being mentally active, being purposeful, all those things we believe are very important. So we strive to do that. And how do we do that? I'll just give you some examples that will be easier, and that will give other people listening also some ideas. Everyone is unique. So that part we should just accept. Everyone likes different things. I might love music, you might like reading books. So what brings me joy as a unique individual, we have to try to get to know. We try to do that. And, family members, we have to give them some empathetic hearing. If you listen, you will catch this. It's not that difficult. So, the whole idea about revisiting their life history. So that is one thing we have done. Listen to them, encourage them to write their biography, or have an interview, interview them on their topic of interest, publish that, record it. Even if you don't publish it for the world, right, record it for them to share with their own families. That is like a legacy that they leave behind for their families. And So this can go for quite a period of time. They will look forward to each sitting, like, as even if for people who are living with their parents and in-laws, right? You don't have 5 hours at a stretch sometimes. So, and they will also get tired. Do half an hour, 1 hour slots, even every few days or once a week even. That gives them something to think about during the week. Okay, we talked about this part of my life. Now next week I'm going to talk about this. How did it happen? They are in their mind, they're being very mentally active about something that they enjoyed, some period of life that was very good to them, or even otherwise it is something that they are reflecting upon. So that is something we have done. Sharing family recipes, that is another thing that, especially with the women, some things are very typical to your family, your grandmother taught you, and so you want to keep that tradition alive. If we write it down, help them to keep it for their grandchildren or children. At this stage, children are typically busy, right? We are running around in our own professional lives and all that. So having it curated somewhere, that becomes a nice thing that they can present to their children as like a birthday gift, or even just as a legacy again to leave behind. So we do that. And then celebrating events, right? Birthdays, festivals in person. So now again, because of COVID, the last couple of years, people are by themselves and they're not seeing too many people. So when you go be with them, spend time with them, right? Surprise them. That is, they usually quite, I think everyone loves surprises. So that is a nice thing to do, surprise them. You can even do a Zoom event with family. So we've done that. Where they didn't expect. So we had, sometimes it's a bit complicated, but I would suggest you take the time, coordinating schedules, different time zones, grandchildren are there, children are there, sometimes siblings are there. It's a lot of fun. They just love it. And of course that somebody will be there with them to solve the tech part if they are not comfortable with Zoom. But once that hurdle is crossed, it's a lot of fun. And we've done a birthday quiz also in one of these events. So that involved getting questions from the family. And then some questions they knew, some we gave some questions, and then the birthday person, the senior citizen, the Tata party, they had to answer it. So it was, it was like fun. They walked down memory lane, and that wedding unjal sari was what color, So it's like a lot of laughs also for them, because like you said, there are healthy seniors, there are people who are got their health issues, there are also bedridden people, right? But one should try to find something that, and there's small things that we can do, even like this thing, the whole Zoom thing, you do it on a tab. They can be lying down, they're perfectly fine. You put it on a speaker, they can see you, they can hear you, hopefully. So we have to work around what constraints there are to make it happen. And what else? So sharing in their interests. So there was this one person who was bedridden, and he was very enthusiastic about a lot of things, badminton, this, that, and the other, but that was difficult to do, obviously, in this stage. He also liked crosswords. And so the Hindu crossword to me was really hard. I mean, I love English and everything, but I did not see how does the clue reach this? So we used to do that. He used to kind of teach me how to solve the crossword, and that was something that he looked forward to. So, and it was a lot of fun for me too. So I would encourage people, to think of anything, figure it out. Of course, the typical things about the non-COVID times, going out, right? Going to the beach, going to the temple. All these things are very simple for us. But when you think of somebody living alone who's older, how am I going to go? Is it auto, car? How do I take my walker? Are there steps there? It's very complicated and it's just, sometimes they get rattled. It's difficult. So if you can plan it out for them, accompany them, it doesn't have to be a very long outing. That will be something they look forward to, and they will look back upon it also. We went, it was so much fun, it's very nice. So that is something I would recommend. The music season this year is in person, online, there's a mixture of things. So for in person, of course, it's straightforward. We've taken them, find them seats that are near the exit, find them seats that they don't have to climb to if there's a lift. Do your recon before you take them. Make sure that it's easy for them to get to and get out of. Have the transport logistics worked out. And then it's not a nice fun outing. They're going to get dressed up and go. And this is something that we've all done very, sparsely in the last 1.5 years. So that's easy. Online, it's easy for us, but for them it might be difficult. But so let's cast it on their TVs, because they're going to give them a tiny phone. They're going to say, "It's like this is hard. I've heard this before," or something, and it's difficult to hold the interest on a tiny screen. TV casting is fairly straightforward. Again, do one round before the actual event, and then stream it online. And maybe if you have the time to stay with them, you can do a dress up. It may be just 2 of you. That's okay. Dress up and sit and watch it like you were going there. It's the small thing that you can do. You can't go to the thing if your children and all are very concerned. Omicron, all that. Okay, let's not go. Let's stay at home and do this. So it's something else. Then what else? We've people who like music, not music period, books. Libraries were closed last couple of years. So we are the younger generation is connected. WhatsApp, this, that, and the other, right? You can reach out to friends and family. This is the genre of books I'm looking for. This is the language. Does anyone have anything? Borrow it from friends and family. Networks are awesome. First degree, second degree, and people are always willing to help. So that's what we've done. We've brought books to people who couldn't get them otherwise. Gardening is another thing that senior citizens who are able to do it, that has been very nice for them. Some fresh air, you see something growing. There's a joy in seeing that grow from one little sapling, and then it's flowering after a few months. It's very satisfying. So getting them seeds, saplings, things like that. There are very simple ways of helping them finding joy in day-to-day life. And tech education. So it's not directly bring joy, but it's indirect, right? Because WhatsApp, where are the grandkids? The grandkids are on their devices. How do you connect with them now? So WhatsApp video calls, we've got, so initially it will be hard. You explain the same thing a few times. Remember, we are also going to get there. This is going to happen to us too. So
Anupama, it seems like a dream come true, like care managers, as you call them, I think. It is like a dream come true for all the seniors. So Prayojana is the name, and you can check that out. A wonderful set of activities you've done. And I'm sure all your people who have signed up with you will be very happy with your services. Good.
It's been joyful for them, and it's been joyful for us too. So we are very appreciative of that. And to wrap it up, so it's not about adding life, adding years to your life. That's great. But what life you have, let's add life to those years, quality to those years.
Yes. That's wonderful. Thanks, Anupama. Moving on to Sudha Narasimhachar. She's the author and founder trustee. She's the author, and she's just released a book in this Women Economic Forum. And she's also the founder trustee of Sahayog. Sahayog is an NGO, and their main goal is to bring medical care to the poor. So let's learn a little bit about Sahayog from Sudha. And Sudha was also mentioning about how seniors face a lot of issues when they move to banking institutions, as well as other civic amenities. She wanted to touch upon those issues. Over to you, Sudha.
Thank you. Everybody spoke so well. I was really overwhelmed with the kind of work each one is doing. Everything seemed so pertinent. Being a senior citizen myself, so my experience also, included in my talk. So I am an ex-banker. I used to work for Canara Bank. And I remember when we went for the training programs in the banks, what they advised us was, don't treat customers like numbers, You treat them like, they are human beings, so it's not just the account number, So there were examples of some senior citizens who went to the bank only to meet people because their children were away abroad and they were living on their own. When they went to the bank and met youngsters, they felt nice. So they would come on some pretext or the other, which really didn't, there was no necessity for them to come to the bank, but they would come and ask some repeated questions. And so we were advised to be patient with such people. Don't be rude to them. Don't snub them. be very, I know all of you are busy in your work and you can't spare time to chat with an old man at the counter, but be very nice to him and keep him engaged in between. It is not even necessary that you talk to him continuously. You be doing your work and in between you just ask one personal question. He feels very nice. So we were not allowed to be rude to old customers. But these days things have changed too much and technology has taken over a lot of things. And yes, some of us are comfortable with digital banking and online banking and all that. But most of us are very wary of technology because we hear of cyber crimes and things like that, cyber fraud. So we are scared that whatever the hard-earned money we have, being a banker myself, I quit the bank just before technology took over in full. So I'm also scared to use technology fully for the thing. So I prefer going to the branch because I have my accounts in the nearest branch. My husband also, he prefers going personally to the bank for certain things. So, but I know there is a limitation here. Many of the senior citizens become immobile after some time. So they're not able to go to the bank personally. So I would, had I been in the bank, I would have given the suggestion to the bank to management. But I would feel, just now we heard Prayojana. Prayojana was one more thing on my list, and there is one more organization called All-Serve or something in Bangalore. I just received a message about that. So maybe the banks could tie up with such organizations and give the service at the doorstep through them. The senior citizens cannot walk to the branch, so they can be served at their doorstep. So that's one thing. And then there are, I know of a senior citizen organization in Bangalore which did a lot to help senior citizens settle their bank accounts, minimize their bank transactions, and write the will and do those legal part of it when they are when they are sane enough to do all that, and when their brains are fully functional. It is always better we finish all our duties of financial settlements when we can do them consciously. So this organization used to help the senior citizens with the legal service and also the service from the financial consultants. And it's always better senior citizens limit their activities on the financial front to the bare minimum that will take care of themselves. They should not right away everything in their lifetime to their children because we know of many cases where they are left on the lurch after doing this. So that is not advisable, but they should have somebody to back up when they are not consciously able to use their bank accounts or services like that. So maybe these organizations they need trustworthy persons for that, because today also I read an incident in Bangalore where the caretaker family themselves murdered the man for financial gain. So such things are happening. So we need some trustworthy services for this. And then about caretakers, domestic caretakers, I was taking care of my parents-in-law for quite a long time, for nearly 20 years. And now my mother is there, my brother is taking care of her, and I to help him out in between. So we have been engaging domestic help to give them company and be with them all the 24 hours, because we'll be engaged in our own lives, our own children, our work. So we cannot give them totally 24-hour attention. So we need someone to be with them when we are not around. So I have been engaging domestic nurses through Red Cross Kanangat, Kerala. And I had a very good experience with most of the girls who came to help me with my mother-in-law. And actually Red Cross was prepared to train some more girls But it is a very sorry state that many of the youngsters are not willing to do this work. They want to work in malls or theaters, So maybe we could organize organizations which could train youngsters for this service, because the demand is going up. Many of the children are living abroad, and many of the old people are living on their own. And
That's
one
a
more
very
point,
good point, Sudha. That's a wonderful point which you noted, and we are just running out of time.
Thanks, Sudha. Sorry for interrupting you.
Yeah, all the points which you said were so valid, and since we are just running out of time, and Nisha has come in, and we have to close the session, and I'm sorry we cannot have the question session like Dr. Thanga said. Let us do it in another webinar. Over to you, Nisha. Nisha, you can close the session.
Meghalai, we'll have to.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Nisha.
Thanks, Meghalai. I'm sure it's a great session. Thank you, all the speakers. We are time bound and we have to close the session at 8 o'clock. Thank you so much for all your inputs. And on behalf of WEF Economic Forum for your contribution and for the great work that you guys are doing, we are going to felicitate you with an award called Exceptional Leader of Excellence. The award would be mailed to you within 15 days in your respective email. So thank you so much for your time, and it was great to have you at a panel and the insights that you have shared. Thank you so much. We'd like to close the session. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you, wonderful speakers. So let us bring back happiness, health, and honor to all the elders, and very wonderful points. And I've noted down a lot. I'm sure the participants also would have enjoyed the session. So let us, continue to do this periodically. We can join together and do this often. Thanks for your valuable time, participants. Have a lovely evening.